Welcome back to the ICND1 video series, and in this video we'll be talking about how we can navigate the Cisco IOS. So in the previous video we talked about how we can connect to a device so we can configure that device. Now the thing is that unlike other vendors with Cisco devices out of the box, they don't work as they should. To get them to work, we have to connect to that device either remotely or via a wired connection, and we have to configure features on that device so that it works. So we'd go into a switch, configure features and get it up and running. We'd go into a router and have to configure features and functions so that it can work as expected. And so when we actually access that Cisco switch or that device via a terminal emulator, we're getting a command line interface. We're getting command line interface access to what's called the Cisco IOS. All the Cisco IOS is software running on the router or the switch that allows you to interact with that device. Essentially, it's the operating system of that switch or of the router. So, like with our PCs and our laptops, we use operating systems like Windows 10, which allows the hardware to interact with each other. As an example, with desktop-based operating systems, different applications, different features, and allows us as people to interact with that device. The same thing with Cisco IOS. All it is just software running on the switch, running on the router, which allows us to interact with that device and allows us to perform configuration changes so we can configure different networking features on that Cisco device. Now, with Cisco IOS is command line based. There's sometimes it's very rare, but on some devices there's a GUI. But with Cisco devices, the command line is very easy to use and navigate, and normally most of the commands that we'll be entering, most of the time we're configuring our Cisco devices, we'll be using command line interface anyway. Now with Cisco IOS, what makes Cisco devices better than, let's say, Juniper devices or better than HP devices is that the actual command line interface, the Cisco IOS, the software running on the switch and on the router, is very easy to use and very easy to navigate as well. There's a lot of help when we're typing in commands. There's a lot of shortcuts that we can use, which make working with the Cisco IOS very easy and very enjoyable experience as well. And so with Cisco IOS, there are different modes which can control the privileges that the user has. So the way it works is that there are different modes with Cisco IOS software, and with each mode we can do more and more on the Cisco device. And so we'll get into that in later slides. So as an example, we may not want everybody to be able to access a device and configure different features and functions. We would give those people a different privilege level than, let's say, our network admins, who would have to access the device to configure the features and the functions. So the way it works is by having different modes, we can control access to the device and we can control what people can do on a switch or on a router. It's the same thing how with like a Windows operating system, you have a standard account and an admin account. With standard account, we're able to use the machine, but any changes to that PC or to the laptop, such as installing software or installing device drivers, cannot be made unless you have admin access. The same thing with Cisco devices. Cisco IOS software has got different modes or different levels of privileges which allow you when you are configuring the device, which allow you to set different privilege levels to control what people can do once they access that device. So now let's talk about the different modes of the Cisco IOS software. The first mode you enter when you log in is known as exec mode. In exec mode, when you access the device either via a console connection or via Turner or SSH connection, the first mode you put into is exec mode. And in exec mode, it's a very basic mode. So from exec mode, we can't really do anything. So we can enter a few basic commands which allow us to look at the status of the switch, but we can't really get any information about the switch, or we can't configure anything about the switch from this mode. It's just the mode that we enter though, and the mode that we enter when we first log into the switch, once you first access the switch. And we're very limited to what we can do here, and so we can identify the way in exec mode with this prompt here. So as an example, it will list the host name, but most importantly, in exec mode, it will always list the greater than sign. So if we see the greater than sign when we're in the command line interface of a Cisco device, it means we're in exec mode. And then from exec mode, we can move to what's called privileged exec mode. So in privileged exec mode, it contains more commands than exec mode, and the commands which are in exec mode as well. But with privileged exec mode, it contains commands which allow us to see information about our device. So those are called show commands. So with show commands, we can look at maybe the configuration of our device. We can see different types of information about our device. We can see how much the CPU is being used. As an example, we can see VLAN info. We can see info about the IP address. We see info about the interface and the port. So we can see information about the device. We can also capture real-time info about the Cisco device as well, which is done through debug commands. So with what's called debug commands, we're able to see real-time processing of a device and how the device is processing traffic that it's receiving as well. We can get real-time information as well as a snapshot of information. And the way that we can tell whether we're in privileged exec mode when we're working on a Cisco switch or on a Cisco router, then next to the host name, a little we'll call it's like a hash, like some sort of there'll be like a hash symbol. So whenever we see a hash symbol, it means that we're currently in privileged exec mode on the Cisco device. Okay, so the next mode we have is called global configuration mode. With global configuration mode, once we enter that mode, we're able to enter commands that affect the configuration of the network device. From here, we can enter what's called sub-configuration modes. So in sub-configuration mode, you can configure specific areas of the networking device. And you can tell that you're in global configuration mode with this identifier here. So what happens when you're in global configuration mode, and we list the host name of your device. So with a Cisco device, we have to give it some host name. So normally it will have a default host name of either switch or router or like ASA or access point. It'll have some sort of default host name. And obviously for different devices, we may give it a different host name. We may give the host name maybe of the floors, so it might be Cisco switch floor 1 or something. But anyway, so what's listed first will be the host name, and then it's the prompt after that which tells us whether we're in, as you've seen before, exec mode, privilege exec mode, or global configuration mode. So just to draw it out for you, we start off in exec mode when we log into our device. So when we access our device, we begin in exec mode. Then we move to privilege exec mode. And then from privilege exec mode, we can move into global configuration mode. And so I'll show you how we can move between the different modes, I think in the next slide or the slide after. The point I'm trying to make here is there's different modes of configuration on a Cisco device. And so what we can do, we can restrict different people to different modes. As an example, maybe we can restrict some, let's say a help desk admin, we restrict them to either exec mode or privilege exec mode. So they're able to find out some information, some information about your Cisco device, your Cisco switch or router for troubleshooting purposes, but they won't be able to then go into your device and make any changes to it. We may allow our network admins to have access to all three modes, so that they're able to troubleshoot the device as well as actually go into the device and make any changes as needed. So as you can see, like with an operating system like Windows 10, how we can have some restrictions in place on what the person using the device can do. And same thing with Cisco devices, we can restrict access to the device to limit what people can do once they've accessed that device, and we do that through the different modes. So here are what in the previous slide I was talking about how with global configuration mode it allows us to make configuration changes. Well, within global configuration mode there's what we call sub configuration modes, and once we get in more detail into more further into actually working with Cisco devices and configuring the different features, you'll see that the sub configuration modes is where we put most of our configuration for our device at. In global configuration mode, normally it's commands which affect the which generally affect our device. It's in that mode where the commands are put. So as an example, when we're configuring our host name, it's put at the global configuration level. However, when we want to configure an IP address on a router's interface, that's put at what we call the interface mode. So a popular configuration submode is the interface mode. It allows you to enter commands that apply directly to the interface of a device. And like I said before, we can identify it with this prompt. So normally it lists config-if in brackets with the hash sign here. Line mode allows us to enter commands which affect the console and VTY lines of a device. So console lines allows the console in with a rollover cable. VTY lines allow us to remotely connect to a device via Ethernet or SSH. And just as an example, at the console and VTY line submodes, we're able to configure passwords, configure login names, or even on the VTY lines limit either to Telnet or SSH access. Again, this will become clearer once we actually get onto a device, and I'll show you some of the different configs that we can do on the device. But we can recognize that we're in line configuration submode with this prompt here. So it will list in brackets config/line and the hash sign. So with global configuration mode, we can enter different submodes, and with the submodes, we can configure different things which relate to specific areas of our device. We can configure things which relate to the interface. We can configure commands which relate to the lines, where we can configure our devices, or we can even configure things which relate to, let's say, router or something, to our routing protocols. And again, this will become clearer once we actually do some config. But just from global configuration mode, it's just a very general commands which affect the device, such as hostname. And normally in global configuration mode, that's where we enter. When we enter the global configuration mode, we normally enter different configuration submodes, which is then where we put our commands to configure different features and functions. So you can think of from the global mode, we're able to enter submodes for different features and functions, allowing us to configure those features. And so this diagram really shows how we can navigate the Cisco IOS. So like I said, you begin in exec mode, also known as the user mode as well, but normally it's called exec mode, and this is the prompt that we'll see. And from exec mode, we're able to move to privilege mode with the enable command. We're able to move into global configuration mode with the configuration terminal command. If we type in the command end, we move back to privilege mode. If we enter the command disable, we move back to the exec mode. And from global configuration mode, we can enter the different sub configuration modes to configure specific areas of our Cisco device. So we can enter interface configuration mode, which allows us to enter commands which apply directly to a specific interface or a range of interfaces. We can enter the line configuration mode, which allows us to enter commands which apply specifically to the VTY console lines. We can enter the routing configuration mode, which allows us to enter commands which apply specifically to our routing protocols. So all routing protocols are protocols that we configure on a router or on a layer 3 switch, which allow that router or layer 3 switch to learn routes in order for it to route packets to the correct destination networks. And so all commands which relate to our routing protocols, we would go into routing configuration mode. To move from a sub configuration mode back to the global configuration mode, we can use the exit command, or to move directly back to privilege mode, we can use the end command. And so when we're using the Cisco IOS, when we're using the command line interface of the Cisco IOS, there are certain shortcuts we can use to make it faster and to make it more easier to use. So as an example, we can use the question mark command to list the different commands in privilege mode, the different commands in exec mode, or the different commands in the global configuration mode. Or we can actually use the question mark to list the keywords to a command. So normally with commands contain multiple keywords. As an example, it might be like AAAA new model. If we forget part of our command, we can actually use the question mark to tell us the different keywords which go with that command. We can use the tab keyword to enter a partially entered command. So as an example, to move from global configuration mode, to move from privilege mode to the global configuration mode, it would be the configuration terminal command. With the tab keyword, we can enter config, and by entering the tab keyword, the command will be finished for us. So with the tab keyword, we can partially enter command, press tab, and it finished our command for us, as long as we've entered enough of that command for the Cisco IOS to uniquely identify a single command. Again, this just makes it faster to use. So instead of having into the whole command, we can enter part of the command, then just press tab. And once we've entered our command, we can submit that command and send that command to the Cisco device by pressing the character return or the enter key on your keyboard. So we've talked about all the theory of how to use the Cisco IOS software, but what I'm going to do now, I'm actually going to show a live demonstration on how on how we can navigate the Cisco IOS software and how we can use the shortcuts, and I'm going to show this how to do this in real life. So as you can see, when we first enter the Cisco device, when we first access the device, I've got a actual rollover cable running from a switch to my laptop. We're entered into exec mode, and with exec mode we can see that the host name, this is the host name of the device, in this case it's SW1, and this is the prompt. Now in exec mode the prompt will always be a greater than sign. Press enter a few times, we can just scroll down a bit, and now to move from exec mode to privilege mode we can use the enable command, and we know that we're in privilege mode because we can see this this hash sign over here. And so to move from privilege mode to global configuration mode, we can use the configure terminal command. Okay, and we press enter. Now to move from the configure terminal command back into privilege mode, we use the exit command, or we can use the end command. So I'll use the exit command, and just quickly showing you with the question mark we can see all the commands that we can enter in privilege, and as you can see there are a whole ton of commands. So the show command here allows us to see information about the device itself. I'm not going to go through all the commands, but as an example, we enter show, but now what comes after we enter the keyword show? We press the question mark again. This shows us all the keywords which can be used with the show command. So as an example, we can use this is the show controllers command. Okay, and now look, I've entered, so in this case, we can see there are many commands which begin with CON. When I try to press the tab key, nothing happens, it just scrolls down. Once I press T, and I press the tab key, or no, sorry, R, it finishes the command for me. So with Cisco iOS, you can use the tab key as long as you've entered enough of the command itself for the Cisco iOS to uniquely identify a single command. So in this case, when I just entered CONT, there were two commands which begin with CONT, so it wasn't able to identify which command I meant, whether it was context or the controller's command. By entering CONTR and I press tab, it finishes the command for me. So this just shows information about the device itself. And another example, if I want to move from privilege mode to global configuration mode, I press CON. As you can see, there are two commands that begin with CON. Configure and connect. Once I press F and I press tab key, it finishes the command for me. And now I press T, I press tab, it finishes the command for me again. Now to move from, let's say, to move into a sub configuration mode, in this case, I'm going to move into a interface sub configuration mode. We type in the command interface, and then we can just type in the interface number. And so now, as you can see, I've moved from global configuration mode to interface configuration mode. And from here, if I press the question mark, I can see all the different commands I can enter in interface configuration mode. And if I just move back to global configuration mode, as you can see, there are some commands in interface configuration mode which I can't enter in global configuration mode, and vice versa. And one of the commands might be like the IP address command or something. You can see global configuration mode has got more commands than the interface sub configuration mode commands. So with sub configuration modes, it's just commands which apply to that specific area, to that specific area of the Cisco device. To move to the line configuration mode, we can use line console 0. Again, I'm using the tab key to finish the commands for me. As long as you've entered enough of the command and you press the tab key, it finishes the command for you. And then to move from a sub configuration mode back down to the global configuration mode, we can use the exit command. I can cycle through commands with the arrow key. So if I press up, it goes to the last command I entered. Press up again, the command before that, and the command before that. If I wanted to move from my sub configuration mode back down to privilege, I would just use the end command and moves you back down to privilege mode. So we've seen the basics of how to navigate through a Cisco device. with the tab key, we can use question mark, we can use all the different commands here, and there are a whole ton of commands here there are. We can use CDP commands, and we get into most of these commands in later videos. There's IP commands, DNS commands, and with the question mark, let's say I want to see all the commands that begin with IP. I'm listing all the keywords which I can use in this command. So as you can see, we can see the subcommand. So we can see now that I've entered IP, what subcommands can I use with this command to send a full command to our device? And you see I can use IP DHCP, IP domain, IP domain name, IP domain lookup, IP FTP. There's all sorts of commands that we can use. So we've seen how to navigate through Cisco IOS. We've seen how we can use the question mark key to see the commands we can enter. So we can see the configuration commands we can enter, and also any keywords for those commands, so we can configure different things. We then have you use the tab key to automatically finish commands for us. We've seen how we can use the carriage return to actually send the command to the device itself, and how we're able to navigate between the different modes. So from exec mode to privilege mode to global configuration mode and to sub configuration modes. The best thing for you guys to do is actually to get some hands-on experience with this. So at the moment, we don't know any command for our Cisco devices, but it's important to just mess around maybe a bit. So mess around with the tab key, mess around with running between the modes, so that you become comfortable navigating through the Cisco IOS. Once you become comfortable, it makes doing the configuration a lot more simpler because you know where everything is, and you become comfortable with using a command line interface to interact with the device. So if I was you guys, I would just connect to your Cisco device either via a console connection or via a VTY connection, and then just start trying to navigate through Cisco IOS. So start from the exec mode, navigate to privilege mode, back down to exec mode, then navigate from privilege mode to global configuration mode, and then try to navigate to some sub configuration mode. So you've got root configuration mode, interface configuration mode, line configuration mode. Practice trying to use the question mark key, practice trying to use the tab key, so you become comfortable with navigating and using the Cisco IOS environment. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.